We are back, guys. Welcome to Three's a Crowd.
Hello, it's been so long.
I know. We're all just getting back from, you're just getting back.
Yeah.
I'm just getting back from real life.
I just left.
Waking up from the weekend.
I was like, I can't take this cold. I'm leaving.
I know. I'm so jealous that you're able to do that. But how was it?
It was good. We took the kids out of school and we were just like, you know what? For a week, they don't need school. Yeah. I brought them some books. I'm like, just read.
And that's what, I mean, honestly, I think that's better sometimes. Like the kids need that.
January's tough.
It's so tough, especially in New England where we live.
Yeah.
It's
old and cold.
I will say Florida is like, I mean, I'm from Florida, so I can say this. Yeah. But it is like the wild, wild west. People are so different there. Like for example, we're sitting there and we're eating dinner and I look down to the left and I'm like, Jason, this guy has no shoes on. He's like, we're in a restaurant, guys. In a full restaurant that I had to like literally wait 10 minutes for. The guy's got no shoes.
Wait, but like, is it on a beach?
No.
It's like in the heart of town.
We're like in a plaza in a restaurant in the heart of town. And the guy has no shoes. And Jason's like, I've never really seen that before. And I was like, what? It goes through this guy's mind that he's just like, I'm not going to wear shoes to dinner. And then how do they even like let him in the restaurant? It's a different mentality. It's a different
all those memes I feel like online, like when it's like something totally crazy or someone wrestling, everyone's like, yep, has to be in Florida. Like something.
Yeah. But it's so funny because there's so many parts of Florida and they're all so different. Yeah. Like that's what's crazy. Like,
well, because it's South Florida. So it's still like, you know, it's civilized. You know, I feel like it's civilized. We're civilized people.
We do love Florida. Oh my God.
We're there all the time.
But my whole family, they really have Southern accents. And it's just kind of this trip, I was like, wow. I was like.
Yeah. Like you really realized it.
Yeah, I realized.
Yeah, or noticed it. Yeah.
Thank God I got out of here. But
we do love our area. Yeah. But anyways, we're excited to talk about, I don't even know what to call it. I feel like friendships and self-worth and like how you perceive people and
judgment.
It's
kind of an ugly word, but we're talking about.
We're going to get into it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you guys have a theory that you're going to explain a little bit.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know. So, okay. Mel Robbins is one of my favorite podcasters. Yeah. I think she's very empowering for women all around. And her theory, the let them theory, is very empowering, I think, or very freeing too. And I've practiced this, I feel like my whole life, because growing up, I used to sing, I still sing, but you know, I used to be a performer. That's what I did. So I had to let go of anything anyone perceived of me, because anything you do in life, people are going to judge you. And it's the way, that banter in your head that you have, that people are talking about you or saying negative things about you or whatever it is, who cares? Let them. And that, when I started doing that, I feel like I just felt a weight off my shoulders because I was my true self. I was happy and I just kept going up the ladder. Like I was just like, I was able to come into my own. And I just feel like around, when you're in high school, I genuinely feel like you think when you grow up, no one's going to be like high school anymore. Like you're going to grow up, you're going to have friends and you're going to be adults. Because when you view adults when you're in high school, you're like, whatever. But now I feel like we're still in high school because there's some people that are just, the way they speak about people, I think is just insane. Again, I think as you get older, you start to learn a little bit more about who you want to be around and how to deal with those types of people. But I think the let them theory really is just very empowering.
So what is the theory of let them? Is that what you just say to yourself? Like, I don't care.
Well, like Mel Robbins came up with it.
Yes.
But
wait, originally, Mel Robbins. Who is she?
So she's like a famous like podcaster, like therapist, author.
Is she originally a therapist and author?
I think she's originally
a therapist.
Yes.
I forget her exact background, but I think she has like psychotherapy or something like that.
She's originally a therapist, but she's had like, you know, has come through incredible like hardship in her life and like, you know, all that stuff. And her podcast is very interesting. I'm hooked.
Yeah.
And one thing I can say about you, Mel, is I feel like you've been like you said, you've been practicing the let them theory without even knowing you were doing that.
Yeah.
For me, the first time I heard it, it's so freeing,
it's
like
so
you said.
freeing.
And it's psychologically, there's a couple things about it that the reason I find it freeing too. But basically what it is, she calls it the let them and let me. So if you're sitting and you're like worried about, okay, I'm going to do this new thing, or I'm going to put myself out there, and you're worried about what someone's going to think of you, or there's, you're about to do a post on social media and you're like, oh, but if I write it this way, like you're actually thinking of specific people and what their responses will be every time you do something. And then you basically say, okay, they're going to think this is really silly. They're going to think I'm full of myself.
They're going to talk about
I'm showing
me.
off.
Yeah.
And then you say, let them.
Yeah. Who cares?
And you just say it in your head. And then you're like, and then you say, let me do this. And let them. And so you're already kind of putting the worst case scenario of what these people or what people around you might say. And you've already accepted it and you're moving through it.
And one thing that she says that I very much value and live by this daily is anything in your life that you do, people will talk about and people will say negative things. That's human nature, and it is what it is. And you can't live your life like that. Like you can't live your life around the perception of other people. And other people, you never know if they're miserable or if they're jealous or what's going on in Susie's marriage or what's happening behind the scenes. Maybe she's so insecure. It's their projections onto you. So the minute you realize that and you literally say, let them say whatever you want to say, it is so freeing, because if you genuinely don't care, you can go. The places you can go in your head and in the world, I think, are just unstoppable. And I feel like a lot of women today really do bring down other women, not even really knowing about it, just by gossiping or just by just talking about people and gossiping. And it does come back around. Again, I genuinely don't care. I've learned that I have very thick skin. Yeah. I don't care. But I've seen other very successful, very strong women, really this tears them apart. And sometimes they don't go after what they want to go after, or they don't start that business because they don't want to start it because they're afraid of other people and what they're going to say. And if you just let them, I think it opens up so many doors.
Well, it's funny because when I moved to New York to be an actress when I was like, 20, 21, I was going to, all day, it was like basically an all day boot camp of acting school. Yeah. I went to the neighborhood playhouse and we, from 8 to 4, that's all we did: dancing, singing, acting, improv. And so when I got out, that was very competitive, and we were all in such a small environment judging each other, but it was like an environment you felt safe. But anyways, when I got out of there, I could feel judged all the time. And every single time people were like, oh, what do you do? Oh, I'm an actress. And it was like that same like, of course she wants to be an actress. Of course
she's an actress. Yeah.
And it really did change my like impression of myself.
Yeah.
Like I started to really believe it. And I started to be like, oh God, like I guess I'm just one of those girls that just wants to be, Yeah. And I do feel like it people can shape you, and they can shape the opinion of yourself that you have. And it sucks. Yeah, it could be really, I don't know how you get strong enough to like deny that and keep moving forward.
Because think about it, like when someone says something negative about you, who cares? Like what?
It's very hard not to care.
But why though?
To the general person.
But why? Why does it matter? Like why? Who cares what Susie says? You know what I mean? Like why does it bother? Like let them think that. Like why does that affect your life?
I think it's like in human nature, like we'll care. Yeah. But I went through this experience when I was basically wanting and always wanted to be a fashion designer.
Yeah.
And I remember like sitting with a group of girlfriends, and this was in the city, saying, and these were girls that I had worked in fashion with for a while. But we were always working at very corporate levels. And I said, I really want to start my own label. And it was like, everyone laughed.
Yes.
And in this specific group of girls that I was with, in the role I was in a much like a less desired role at the time when I was working for LVMH compared to the other girls that I was sitting with at the table. And I brought that idea up, and it really hit me. I was like, oh, like I had actually never been like properly laughed at. Yeah. And I was kind of like, wow, like, because it sounded ridiculous. Like when I said it, I was like, oh, I really want to be a fashion designer and I want to do these things. And I kind of put that in the back of my head. And then I literally took a poster board one day and just started putting together all of this imagery and this vision of what I wanted it to look like. And I was so afraid to talk about it to anybody.
Yeah.
And then I went to my daughter was born. I went to a 1-year-old birthday party with her. And there was a brand at the time called Suno. And I would buy it at Intermix, and I love the brand. And I'm at the birthday party, and there's a woman there, and I start talking to her, and she's like, oh, so like, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I've been in fashion. And she was one of the first ones that I was like, but I would really love to start my own line. And she was like, oh, that's really interesting. I was like, I'm a fashion designer. And immediately my heart like sank. I was like, oh, shit, you know? Yeah. And she was like, I'm going to shout out to her because she's been so influential in my life. It's Erin Beatty, and she is the founder of Suno. And she said, I'll consult for you. I'll help you out.
That you loved. She was standing there.
She's the founder. She's one of the labels that I liked. Yeah. And we're good friends to this day. We just spent last weekend upstate together.
But you didn't know her prior to this.
Never met her before.
Because you bring up a very
good. I manifested that woman at that birthday party.
Wait, she was like, I'll help you. And
I started talking. No, so actually it wasn't that quick. So she's telling me about her story and blah, blah. And then at the time she was going through a big transition and she was launching another brand. And I went home that night and I was telling Steve, I was like, oh my gosh, I felt really awkward because I literally told this person at the party, and she turns out to be this founder and designer. And he said to me, well, you should reach out to her and just like see if she would mentor you. And I was like, she's not going to have time for this.
Yeah, exactly. You know? Yeah, because you always think no, right?
And it was just like another Mel Robbins thing, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yes.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It puts you into action. I was like, I'm going to reach out to her, called her. I was like, hey, would you want to grab a coffee, whatever. Yeah. We like hit it off right away. And she said, I can help you. I can, if you want, I can help you consult with you on some ideas and, you know, how you go about this. And she became a mentor. She was my first real mentor in my life. And all the dreams that I had at the time with the label, like, I just remember I was so excited, and we had our launch party and the collection was picked up at Saks. And I just remember like cheersing her in Saks. And I was like, that was a woman who saw the potential, supported me, and was like, this is the biggest thing. She doesn't keep her cards close to her chest. Yeah. She's like, there's so much out there for everybody. Like, I'll help you out. I've learned, like, she's like, I've learned from what I've done. Yes. I can help you out. Yeah. And it was so, but it was like the first, it's kind of sad because the people help you, other people you don't know.
Well, you bring up a really, really good point, because this is what we were talking about this the other day. When you're trying to rise to success or start something or do something new or just, you know, be creative, the people around you mostly will go away. And I don't know if it's out of jealousy, anger, whatever it is, but your dream is not their dream. And rising to the top is very lonely. And you realize once you get success, all these people start coming back. Oh, that's such a great idea. Yeah, now I get it. But generally, when you start an idea, everyone goes away. And we were saying this, that when you are doing something new, most of the people that are supporting you are like strangers or people that you just met, or they're like, oh yeah, that is a good idea. Oh yeah. And then that kind of keeps you going. But the people around you sometimes are very judgmental and they walk away. But the minute that happens, they try to come back and almost are like, oh yeah, that was a great idea. It's like, well, where were you? And you know your true friends and the true family and the people that are around you and who you want to be around at that point.
I think one of the things, like, as like adults and like everyone needs to be very careful of, and it's almost like in high school, it's like you get a reputation, someone boxes you and compartmentalizes you. Yes. Yep. And to get out of that compartmentalized box is like impossible, right? Yeah. Because and then all of a sudden, if you do, they're like, well, wait a second, that doesn't go with my perception of that person. Right. So that's bothering me.
It almost takes like somebody else that they like, their approval of like that person.
Yeah.
To be like, oh, I really like her. She's really cool. And then it's like, oh, okay. Yeah. It's so childish. But yes, I agree with the reputation.
The friend or the person, you know, like you've encountered this personality type where they're really good to you and great to you as long as they feel they're above you.
Yes.
That's the worst. Yes. That's my pet peeve. Yes. And the second someone like, you know what? Like you want to be around smart people and successful people. You get to go along on that ride. 100%. Like I ride Tracy's coattails all the time. Are you kidding? We're like holding on in the back.
No. Now I know you're joking.
No, but but like you surround yourself, for me at least, I've learned to target those people and stay away from those people that we were talking about earlier. But also you start realizing the people that you surround yourself around are the people that you kind of become a little bit. Of course. You want, so that's why I strive for the best.
Yeah. Honestly, moms, I feel like that's truly why I did send Logan to public school, because the relationships and the friendships that she's made and she's making, I feel in life later on, like if she ever needs anything, it's like a social network that you have that you can go back and depend on. You know, it's sort of like, hey, you know, I'm in this field, I need help. Because everybody, at the end of the day, everybody needs help. You know?
Everyone needs help. But again, that you go back to that perception of how people think of you. And at the end of the day, if you have the people surrounding you that do support you and that empower you, you're going to do it. But then think about that. Then it's like the outside people that will say things. Because again, anybody is going to say something about someone, what you're doing. And when you say, let them, it's just so empowering because who cares? And you do you, and you ride that wave, you ride that, I don't know, anything, you just go up. And I just feel like it, when I started doing that as like, I think it was in high school when I really was just like, you know what? I don't give an F. Like, I just don't care. I was a singer. I was trying to do my own thing. I just didn't care at one point of just what people think. And I call them whistleblower outer, or no, I said this to my girl, candle blower outers. Yeah. I say this to my girls all the time. I'm like, stay away from people that blow out your candle. If you can't be yourself, your authentic self, or you feel like you have to pull yourself back or silence yourself, stay away from those people because they're trying to blow out your candle. Yeah. And it's really hard to identify as an adult and a kid, obviously. Or I should say it's really hard to identify as a kid, but as you get older, you start realizing the tools that you put in place and you're like, wait a second, I don't really like that person because they're trying to bring me down. And I think it's really important to empower others. And I don't know, that's just how I live my life. I want to be a good person and not bring people down.
Yeah. Well, I feel like when you're in a group of friends and you don't feel accepted for whatever reason, you know, maybe you're not included in the dinner, or you're not included in the, you know, whatever they're doing, and they're constantly feeling like left out. You know, like I've been there before, and I think
we all have. Yeah.
It's hard to sit there and be like, okay, but I'm me and I like me, and I know I'm good.
No, it takes a lot of work.
It's like I know it's really hard. You know, I thank God. Sometimes I look at Jason and I'm just like, thank God we have each other, because no matter what, like no matter where, like so truthfully, we were away for 2 weeks, and we got back and I was like, Jason, did anybody text you and say they missed you? And he was like, no. And I was like, me neither. And we just like looked at each other and like, but we got each other. Yeah. So
we did. We were like, when are you coming back?
No, Mel and I texted each other about you.
I know. We were like, when are they coming back? They better not move there.
But see, that's the thing. My impression of like, oh God, no one missed me. But your impression is like, oh my God, we missed you so much.
I know. So you have to be careful about like, you
talk
about
this to you.
Yeah, it's like what you feed yourself.
Yes.
You know,
Mel tells me this all the time. Yeah. She's like, don't like think this person is thinking that or said that when they haven't.
Yeah.
You
like
know,
it's in your head.
It's in your head. Yes.
That is let them.
We're our own worst critics.
Yes. We are. Yeah.
We really are.
Yeah. But I think also like Mel Robbins talks about this like in a weird like way when you say, okay, let's say whoever's out there, your group of girlfriends, they all go to dinner and you're not invited. And you find out about it. You say, let them. Because in a way, it weirdly can make you feel superior that you're like, let them. So there's a little superiority complex in it.
And by the way, they're not your friend. Like they're not friends then.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If they're making you feel that way.
Right. But sometimes it's like people will just go to dinner together. Like going back to what you tell me, you're like, don't.
Right. Like they're probably not even thinking about you. What if it's just like, I'm just using us as an example. What if me and her see each other on the streets? We're like, oh, let's grab dinner. And then you find out, you're like, oh my God, they purposely like left me out.
You gotta be,
but that's, but no, we just, that's just what happens. But it's your perception of saying, wait, they left me out, but that's not even what happened.
Also, I think mentally prepare yourself to like, I think at some age, at some point, and I've done this with, it's funny, I've always been friends with threes. It's weird. In my whole life, I've always had threes.
And it's so funny because they always say threes
is not good. Yes.
But like, I know.
For me, work.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. But wait, I forgot what I was going to say.
Mom brain.
We said that if we were going out.
Oh yes, just to mentally prepare yourself. The fact that like I know initially that if you guys went out to dinner, like I have to be okay with that,
right?
Because you know what? It's not anything like it's not that you don't like me.
No,
it's that we're all allowed to make our own plans.
Exactly.
You know
and I feel like we're always talking to our kids about that. Yeah. Our oldest just turned 10, and it's been such a big, like 10 was a big birthday. It's like really hit my husband, very hard. Anyways, he's been really hit hard with
got a long
this.
way to
He's
go,
got a long
by the
way
way.
to go. Yeah, I know. You're like, oh my God, settle down. But I'm starting to see even for her, like they're going into the 5th grade next year, and it's like going to be middle school, and like the girl stuff is starting.
Yeah.
And that the Mel Robbins theory is just so good. And I remember saying it to her, and this was just like last week.
Yeah.
And she loved the idea of it, but it feels so impossible when you're that age. And it's like in your circle, and you're like, your whole life is these, is your girlfriends or the people you go to school with or whatnot. But I don't know. I feel I'm just like watching her about to start navigating all of this, and like my heart's heavy for her a little bit.
I know. Well,
and
that's my daughter Vivian. She is 10. She'll be 11 in August, and I feel like she's there. Like we have the hormones. Like we have just the friendship clicks already. She's nervous about 6th grade. It's just a lot of emotions, but also it's really the clicks and learning how to navigate through that, because she was friends with a certain group of girls, and those certain girls seem a little more mature than her now, and they're always hanging out, and she has her great friends. Like it has nothing to do with it's not like she's mad or there's anything that has happened. But I try to tell that to Vivi. I was like, people go out and they explore, but true friends always come back around, and you can't allow, if they want to hang out, to affect you, because you have to be stronger than that. Obviously you can be upset and come and talk to me, but there's a difference between being bullied and being actually mean and just girls trying to be girls, and everyone has their own groups, and that's okay. And eventually when you get older, I feel like everyone always comes back around anyway. It's just right now everyone's trying to figure out who they are. And also I feel like 5th grade, everyone gets sick of each other because they go to 6th grade.
I feel there's probably a bit of that being in a smaller town.
Yeah.
And like,
that's what I've heard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, do you guys think that you were shaped by your high school experience? Like of who you are today?
Yeah, definitely.
I moved around so much as a kid, so I think that shaped me a lot.
Yeah.
Where I feel like if Steve
So
tomorrow,
you already had the fuck yous at a very early age. You were like, fuck you, I'm going on a boat.
Yeah. It was definitely like I felt I could go anywhere and be okay.
Yeah.
Because I moved so much.
Yeah.
I was always like the new kid.
Yeah.
So,
but you didn't like a situation, so you took yourself out of that.
I would take myself
and
out.
You took charge of your life and did something that was for you.
Yes, you will. If I feel you're not like a good person to me, or there's a toxic situation, or I'm in anything like that, I'm gone.
Yeah.
Like you'll never hear from me again.
That's like me.
I'm done. Like I won't reach out. I won't try to be like, hey, like
Yeah.
I'm out. I'm out, girl. Right. I'm out.
I'm the same way, because and again, I've learned this as I got older. Like that is hard when you're in high school and who you are as a child and whatever. But as you become an adult, you start learning and you start realizing the people around you are what makes you happy and really kind of like that. I don't want to say that they make you successful, because that's stupid. But what I'm trying to say is the people that are around you kind of are the people that are influenced around you, and you want people that are good around you, and you want to make sure that those people want good for you.
Yeah.
And I've learned the hard way, but I really feel like I'm in a good place where I can identify a toxic person and just be kind and walk away. Whereas before I have been in like, when I was a child, even in my young adult life, I've been in toxic friend groups.
Yeah.
And I try to be careful. And I at one point I remember being like, one group that I left, I kind of was just like, these people are so toxic and I just want to get out. And I left, and I just never looked back. I never and there was nothing, there was never like an event thing of me being like, I want you to do this better or whatever. I just genuinely was like, these people are not for me, and I'm walking away. Yeah. And that was it. And I felt so good. Yeah.
Like the idea that you can like change somebody.
Right.
That's crazy. The only thing you're in control of is what you do, what you think, and how you're managing your highs and lows. That's it. Like apart from that,
so true. Yeah.
There's nothing else you can do.
Nothing you can do. And that's why I just feel like, who cares what other people do? And that's my mentality. It's like, I don't care if you're, I don't know, creating your own business or a stay-at-home mom or whatever your passion in life is. I'm going to do me and make me happy. So why are you judging me? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know why so many people have these perceptions and judgments, but I just feel like, I guess I've been practicing the let them theory for a while, and I didn't even know what it was.
Well, another thing Mel Robbins says is she goes, every adult is an 8-year-old child inside walking around. And that's the thing you have to remember.
So true.
Like people stop growing.
Yes.
And get emotional, like they're like emotional maturity just gets stunted. Like not everybody keeps doing the work.
Right.
The work is hard. The work sucks.
hard.
It's grueling, right? When you want to grow
Yeah.
and learn and have self-awareness. And
Right.
so you have to remember, like you might be on this path where you have experienced growth and
Yes.
change. And now you're trying to get somebody else to be okay with that who hasn't, who's the same person they were in high school. That's not going to happen.
And especially if you've changed so much and you see the friends that you were with or whatever that was, the high school friends or your old adult, your college friends, whatever it is, but you realize you're a different person and you're kind of like, I'm not that character anymore that you put in your head.
Yeah. That's taken me so long.
Yeah.
I feel like I spent my whole high school trying to be accepted into groups or friends of being like, oh, include me. Because you want to have friends, obviously.
Yeah.
But I feel like I spent so much time wanting to be included that finally, like at this stage of my life, I'm confident of who I am. And I have my family. And to be honest with you, that's
Well,
like
family is always number one.
Yeah.
yeah, that's my real security. But it's really, you know, it sucks that can shape you, you know, because then you, as an adult, you kind of see yourself going back into the same mentality, like thinking of like, oh, they don't want to be my friend, or I want to fit in, or, you know, so
it shapes you.
It
It
does
takes
shape
Like
work.
I still feel like I'm in high school. Like I still feel young and vibrant, and like my brain sometimes goes back there. Like you are that little girl. Like she's in there.
Yeah.
And that's what I think a lot of people kind of forget is that like you once were 8, you once were 15, you once were 21.
Oh wait, you just hit a nail on the head. There's this like,
Oh, God,
I'm like
what?
diving into this right now. So there's this therapy called inner family systems.
Yeah.
And basically what it is and I can't speak to this a lot. I've literally just started like reading about this, is all those versions of you are, so you have your outer family, which is
I
like
actually feel like I've heard
Tom
this.
and your kids
Yeah.
and like, you know, all that. And then you have your inner family system, which is your 5-year-old self, your 8-year-old self, your 12-year-old self, your, you know, so when you have these moments, like for Tracy, for example, when you were like, it sounds like you always felt like you wanted to be wanted in a group, right?
Yes.
So that's one of your inner
childs,
who had an experience as a child where you felt like, maybe I'm not wanted here.
Yeah.
Or I'm not like
good enough.
I'm not good enough.
Yes.
Okay. So if you think of that, if you can pinpoint an experience where you were really young and you felt that, that's what you're feeling at now, like 40
later in life
when they don't. So it's like,
I think I did that therapy, guys.
oh, okay.
I think I did.
I'm so intrigued by it.
Yeah.
Me too.
It's a little bizarre, like, because you have to bring yourself back to that one moment.
Yeah.
And then you're trying to think of like these traumatic experiences that you may have had to where you're like, okay,
and there's
I
like
can't
big
really
T
remember.
and little T, like little traumas can actually cause some of these, you know, but don't you have to go back and then you're like a mother now to that 8-year-old
You
self?
have to bring that that inner child forward to now, to
today,
and say like, it's okay. And then like you basically like accept her for how she felt and what she was feeling, and like you bring her. It's a little bizarre.
It sounds heavy to me.
It was heavy. I dreaded it. I was like, oh God, I got to do this again. Because it's a little kooky too. I got to tell you.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, okay, she's like, can you talk to her? Can you tell her what you're thinking, what you're feeling? Okay, can you tell her?
Yeah.
And I'm like, tell her? You mean me?
Yeah, I know. I get
You really
it.
got to go in the mindset.
Yeah, you gotta go. And so
Do you feel like because obviously we all have girls, do you feel like when your daughter is feeling left out or sad about friend groups or whatever it is, or maybe she's embarrassed, she doesn't want to audition for a play because she doesn't know what her classmates are going to say, like, what do you say to your child? Because again, we all obviously all have insecurities. We're not going to put that on our children, but I'm just curious, like, how do you empower your child to have that self-worth and try to teach them the let them theory to be like, you can do whatever you want?
I'm like, you won't know any of these biddies in 10 years.
I know.
I'm like,
I feel bad. I feel
That's what
bad.
I'm thinking though.
I mean, Olivia, man, she's like so opposite. She's very strong-minded. Like the other day I wanted to put like a tiny nightgown in her suitcase. She started crying, being like, I don't have room for that. And I was like, you have lots of room in your suitcase and you're not going to let me put my little tiny nightgown in? And I thought to myself, oh my God, you're going to be that friend. And I don't know if this struck a nerve with me, but I was like, please, Olivia, don't be that friend.
Yeah.
Don't be that, like, always like make room for
Compromise. compromise.
Compromise.
Like,
yes.
You know, so I think just talking to kids and just reminding them of like, hey, if this ever comes up in a situation and your friend asks you to do this, please keep in mind that they need you. And it's okay to be, you know, to be flexible and open. So, but yeah, I was so angry. I was like, you're that
But that's
friend.
good. You called her out on it. Got to teach her.
But so I mean, to your question, I think just talking to your kids and just being a part of their lives. Like truly, my mom worked a lot. So I feel like I was left on my own a lot. So I, you know, didn't have that guidance. But I mean, listen, if you can talk to your kids at, you know, whatever age, then you're a success.
Yeah, I agree. And having them come to you and want to talk to you. I always feel, because that's, I think, one of my biggest fears as a parent is if something was bothering my child and they kept it in and didn't come to me, because like you read about those horror stories about like the mom didn't know that their child was getting bullied or their child was so upset about a situation at school. So I think, like you said, talking, I'm overly talking. I overly talk. And sometimes my kids are like, Mom, stop. I already said that. I'm like, okay. I just wanted to check. And you know, you can always come for me. Cause I feel like that's, for some reason, that's a trigger for me, is like knowing that something's bothering my child and they won't come to me.
I think it's also like monitor the friends. Like when they're this young and at these ages, like we have like a little bit of control over like the friend situations. I think you just gotta like,
you stay away from that person. Like, or just try to help them monitor.
Or if you're, I just remember like with my parents, I definitely had a lot of respect for them. So if my mom would like throw something out that wasn't like, you know, maybe a little jab at somebody I was hanging out with, I was kind of like, oh, well, I don't want her to think that of me.
Right.
You know, when you have that respect towards your parents, or you know, you see them as good people and they know what they're doing. And I don't know, I think you have to talk. I mean, there's so many parents, they'll see these like horrible friendships or relationships and you're like, why aren't you saying something or trying to, I don't know, maybe that's the wrong approach. I don't know.
Well, it's funny that all of us are moms now, are grandmothers. So we see them in that other light. Right. And then it kind of reflects of like, oh God, what kind of grandmother am I going to be? Or like, do you feel like, or what kind of parent am I going to be? Like, do you feel like you guys parent the same way your kids did? Or do you do the complete opposite?
You mean like parent, like our parents did?
Or like be the grandma? Like, cause I look at my grandma, I look at my mom now and I see her as a grandma and I'm like, unfortunately, I'm like, I'm not going to be like that. I'm going to be so different.
Really?
Yes.
I mean, there's certain things, obviously, I feel like for me, I definitely, I loved my childhood and my parents, but like my mom and I, we definitely butt heads because we were very much alike. Similar. And I have a young mom. I forget if you have a young mom too, because I know you do too, right?
Yeah.
Like I was
the last.
I have a, I have a young mom. I was the first. And so she was like a baby when she was growing, like raising me, you know, like she was the cool mom and like everyone always wanted to come over and hang out and chat in my kitchen. And like, I loved that. And then, but like she knew me because I feel like we were very similar. So we would butt heads a lot. But if she, like you said, if she said something to me, like about, well, maybe X, Y, and Z, maybe I would yell at her or like fight about it. But then I would let it set in and be like, damn it, she's right. Like, you know,
you know what, that gives me hope because Logan and I butt heads a lot. And I want so much to just be a friend. Yeah. But you
have to be your mom too. But like, I feel like they come back around. My mom always says that. She's like, you came back around. She's like, you hated me at that one point, but you came back around.
My mom used to always say, if you haven't whispered under your breath, you hate me, I'm not doing my job.
I know. Yeah, right. There you go.
So true.
Oh, yeah. I know. Logan and I, we tried to go to the mall and she did. She came back around and she was like, I'm sorry after when we got home and stuff. But I mean, in the moment, I'm like, God, I just want to have like a decent time and not argue or fight about something.
Yeah.
So it's hard when you're so like similar and close because Logan and I, I had her when I was young.
When
so
you were young,
it's true.
Yeah.
And it sounds like she just loves quality time with you.
Yeah. And she does, but sometimes I'm like, take advantage of it and just be like
be well in it.
Yes. Yeah. Or appreciate it for what it is. Sometimes I think she's in a phase right now where she's very moody. Mm-hmm. And you know,
but that happens. Like I remember,
let them be, right?
Yes, you let them be,
so,
and
let them.
Let them.
Let me.
Let them. I swear to God, with our children, guys, I do all the time. I'm like, Logan, okay, it's okay. I'm gonna give her her space.
You can, and
I
let
feel
them.
It's life changing when your kids get a little like with teenagers or anything. And you're just like, let them.
Yeah,
let them. You know. Let them forget whatever they're supposed to bring to school. Let them not let them
I know
learn
it's so
that
hard
stuff.
sometimes.
It's so hard.
I know
it's so hard. Chloe does hockey, and I was talking about this with some friends yesterday, and the coach is very much like, you're not packing this hockey bag, you're not unpacking the hockey bag, and you're not carrying it. And for a lot of the parents there, it's like their first time that they're fully trying to get off, like their hands off. But it was like, you're responsible for your bag, you're responsible to pack it. And it's something so little. Yeah. But it's like when she shows up and forgot something, kind of sucks.
I know.
You know?
I know.
I have been doing that. Like,
I'm trying to.
I'm like, you guys, it's cold. Bring your sweatshirt. And they're like, they don't. Then
it is what
Let
it is.
them
Sorry.
Freeze today. See how you feel tomorrow.
Like, remember when I told you?
Yeah.
I know.
They're like, but I wasn't cold then. I'm like, well, mom knows best.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you guys, this was amazing.
I know. Is there anything else we should talk about? I feel like we should, any questions that we have for each other, or at least like, I don't know, childhood wise, friend wise,
let's unpack it.
marriage wise. Let's
Should we
unpack
try
it.
that therapy again? Maybe we should get one of those therapists.
I don't know. I'm very curious about it. It's funny because I feel like I had a very great childhood.
Yeah.
Like I feel lucky for that. And then I'm like, oh, what would that uncover?
Right.
Because I have like anxiety and like things like that. I'm like, where does that come from?
I know. I know.
Then I'm like, do you want
to think back?
It's hard to
when you were
think
like
back.
that little.
I know.
That's what I found. I was like, I don't really remember.
You know what's weird though too for me? I like the perception of other people. Like I said, I have a thick skin for, and I just don't care what people talk about because people are going to talk and gossip, and I'm just like, whatever. But the thing for me is like, I very much, I don't know what this is. This is maybe because I'm vain. I don't know. I really get worried about the way I look in terms of like aging, or like if I'm wearing the right outfit, or like I want to look fashionable and like put together. And I feel like that I'm trying to get over too. Like in my head, I'm like, oh my God, I hope they don't think I'm like, I can't even word it.
I feel like it's not about what they're thinking. It's like, I think you feel really good when you look good.
Yes. I agree.
Like, you're like, I feel a certain way, and you're going to present a certain way when you feel good. Some people just don't have that. Right. I'm a big believer of that too. I think when you look good, you feel good.
Yes. Like if I've been in my like sweats all day, I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like doing nothing.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know if that's a vain thing or something, but like sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, like,
but I also feel like that you gravitate to friends also who are similar to you. So if that's what you like, then don't be ashamed of that.
Yeah.
Like I've tried to learn now, like I'm not vain because I like fashion or I like labels or I love makeup or I want to look good. Like that doesn't make me vain. It makes me just want to, I just love it. And I've had to justify myself to my husband all the time. He's like, oh, you care so much. I'm like, no, it's because I like it.
I've had to justify that my whole life.
I like it too.
Yeah, a lot. Even with like some friends, it's like, oh, well, you're so into fashion. Like fashion's blah. Like it doesn't mean anything. What
but
a waste.
It's like, well, I love it.
And
like I like
well,
talking
really
about
great.
it.
Like you're into golf. So
I know.
Good for you.
Yeah, right.
And I don't want to drop $100,000 on a golf membership.
Why not? Yeah.
Anyways, you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. It's funny because we're all going to Anguilla and I had a friend say to me like, oh, are you self-conscious? Like, because I was going to go work out or whatever. And like, are you self-conscious feeling like you're going to go on your vacation? I'm like, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
No. Like, I really don't care, but I care for myself.
You know, what's so weird is for me, because I feel like I'm fluctuating between 5 and 10 pounds, which is not a big deal. That's just the age I'm at and it's fine. But like Anguilla, it's the holidays. I'm probably up a little bit more. I'm trying to work out. I'm trying to eat healthy, but I'm like, oh my God, I have to get fit for Anguilla. I have to do this for Anguilla. And in my head, I'm like, why am I?
Oh my God, don't do that to
doing
yourself.
that to myself?
No.
Like, who cares?
No,
like,
who cares?
But that's what I work on. It's more of my, I think, like, I guess what I say in my head about myself. It's my inner voice. I don't really care the perception of what people think of me. It's more,
how you're feeling.
It's how I'm feeling. Exactly. That's what I'm very in tune to, like my feelings and which, by the way, that would be a fun episode. We should see if our viewers would like this, but about like astrology and signs.
Oh, stop it! I have her girl.
Like a feeling wise,
Terry.
Terry. We have to bring her on. Yeah. But anyway, I really feel like I've been like reading about that stuff. I just do feel like I fluctuate up and down, and I'm trying to learn my feelings and my hormones and everything like that.
You guys, I have to say, when the hardest times in my life, I've always turned to yoga, and for some reason, it really works.
It's like
meditation yoga, or just like actually like the yoga,
the physical yoga. And usually when you go to a class, if the teacher's good, you know, they talk to you. It's about like, how do you feel? Let it go. Manifestation. It you know, they usually have like a little sermon that they say. But I've always and so when I was away in Florida, I went to class every day.
Good
and
for
I
you.
got addicted to it.
Yeah.
Only because I was like, this makes my body feel so good and my brain. So and now obviously I'm getting old. So I'm like, I can't. I'm like, if I don't do this, I'm not going to be able to move. But I do think that yoga is one of those things. And I know so many people who don't really like it.
Yeah.
They find it hard or boring or whatever.
Or you can't like kind of shut your mind off sometimes. Like that's what I've heard from some people say.
I'm telling you, even the hardest time in my life, I was dealing with something. I turned to yoga and it just helped so much. So
I have a question for you guys. Is there a time in your life that you really remember that someone made you feel less than? And like, how did you overcome that? Or are you still working through that? Or do you have that vivid memory in your mind or no?
Oh, 1,000%.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure. Yeah, that's definitely happened. I mean,
Yeah, me
words
too.
are super powerful. That's why, like, I even as a mom now, like, I'm always so conscientious of my words.
Yeah.
You know, when you get upset and you can be like, I don't know, I can be a trigger.
Oh, my
Yeah.
God.
And words have. I don't know. It's like I think words are worse than getting punched in the face. I'm telling you, it's like it can be very cutting.
Yeah.
And it's hard to forget. You know,
It's so hard. I had a boyfriend one time who was, I would say, like verbally abusive in a weird way, but it wasn't like negative. It was like he made me feel like I needed him so much that
it's manipulation.
I couldn't
Do life.
I wouldn't be okay by myself.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was so hard because I was so dependent.
So that's a narcissist.
I know that's called a narcissist.
That's who you were with.
Yeah.
It's funny because my girlfriend is a psychologist and we kind of like lost ways for a while and I met up with her and she was like, you're dating a narcissist.
Yeah.
And at the time I had no idea what that was.
Was he super charming at first?
Oh my God,
Yeah.
completely.
And then it's like reels you in.
Yes.
And then it's like, we're going to break down.
Oh, yeah.
So like you never leave.
And you
But
don't
you know
have
what?
like your personality or anything. You're just like a shell of yourself.
But he had no idea who he was dealing with because in my head mentally, like I really was very strong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I always just knew why I was there. I knew what I was doing. And I was like, you know what? I was like, but to get out was very, very, very hard.
Yeah.
But he tried to break me down. But
I've heard it's like, I remember reading this thing because I had a girlfriend who dealt with being in a relationship with a very intense narcissist. And I read that they're very hard to be with. They're impossible to leave.
Yeah.
Because they make your life so difficult
Yes.
afterwards.
Yep.
God forbid, like you ever, if you're in a marriage and you have to get away from something. I mean, that's a whole other topic, but that's really scary.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, who you hitch your trailer to affects your whole life.
Yes.
Whether it's friends, your spouse, the people you hang out with.
Yeah, think about that. That's really
Who you hitch your
hang out
trailer
with.
to
Yeah.
matters. You cannot be the best version of yourself. You cannot perform when you are dealing with toxicity and managing
On a daily
someone
basis.
else's emotions
Yeah.
constantly.
that's why it's so important to like love yourself truly and know who you are and feel that so you can get out of it. Because I have a girlfriend who, she just relationship after relationship gets herself into these abusive, things. And I always think to myself, why? Like, why does she keep continuing to do this to herself? And it's because she doesn't love herself and she has never been shown love.
Yeah.
So she doesn't know how to get out of it.
Or
The example's not there.
they don't value themselves as like worthy, which is really sad. Which again, I think all of us we kind of have the same. I want to say vibe, but that's not what the word I'm looking for. But I think we all are strong, independent women, and we all have great marriages, and we all surround ourselves like who are in our current lives, I think are great people. And I don't know, maybe there's a couple that you can kind of flick out, but overall, I think we've done the work and we're there. And it is really hard to get to that point.
We continue to do the work.
We always continue.
So I like the 50s is the new 20, guys.
Yeah.
Yes.
So embrace your age
Yes.
and
know.
appreciate it for what it is.
And be a seeker. Like,
Yes.
keep seeking like information and
surround yourself with people that are so much smarter than you.
Yeah.
And
Oh
more
my God.
brilliant. Yeah. And more creative and more beautiful, more anything, because that's what you will become. I also really believe in putting it out there to the universe. I so believe in manifestation. I really think it does happen and it comes true, at least in my experience. And if you put negative energy out in the universe on a day-to-day basis, you're going to be negative all the time.
Yeah.
If you wake up and you say, I'm going to have a good day, and whatever happens to you, it might not be good. Like what if your coffee spills or you get into a car accident? But if you have the ability to be like, it's okay, I'm going to have a good day and still be happy and positive, it's such a difference in mind and mindset. And rather than being negative and crying about it and making your day horrible if your coffee spills all over your outfit, I just think it's positive energy, positive thoughts, and that people come to you who are very much like that same mindset.
You hope.
You hope. It's
Yeah.
I remember when we were going to move out here, I was so nervous. And I was like, oh my God, I'm leaving a life that I love
Yeah.
to go to something that's so unknown. And I remember I was talking to a friend at the time and she said the best thing to me. I was like, what if I get there and it's like horrible? What if what if I'm stuck there? What if I feel like it was a bad move? Da-da-da. She's like, and I'll never forget, she said, but what if you go there and you meet like the best friends?
Yeah. Oh.
The best of friends, or your neighbor becomes this like incredible like mentor, or what if you go and it was like I was like, oh my God,
Right, like you're looking at it
like
that
perception
lens.
shift.
Yeah.
It was like, what if you go and this happens?
Yes.
Like think about that.
Again, the inner dialogue. You always make your inner dialogue positive because don't project.
I do think that it's like it's how you're wired and how you're born.
Mm-hmm.
Like fortunately, I feel like I was always born like a very positive person.
Yeah.
It's just like that's like
You were born this way.
yeah, exactly. But it's true. It's like it's in your DNA.
You're
It's
a
who you are.
glass half full for sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
I always see the better
I think
side
that's
of
what's
people
infectious
and
about
things.
you too.
What is it?
It's what's infectious about you.
Oh, that's so sweet. Really? I have something infectious? No.
You are.
That
No,
and
but
many
you are.
other
You're
things.
very positive. Like, and it's
Well, it's funny because I think in relationships, people, good relationships, you often attract the opposite of you, and I think that works. I feel like.
By the way, I love this sweater on you. I keep looking. What is that?
Thanks. You know what? It's actually really old, but I feel like
cute.
don't you guys always feel like the old stuff is the best?
I think because it's like
they don't make it
broken
anymore.
into.
Sorry, that was my
too.
ADHD. Like I was just like looking at you. I was like, she looks so pretty right now. Wait, I love that
We're
sweater.
like judgment.
I love
sweaters.
it. Judgment.
You guys are judging
But
me.
I know. Now I'm judging you about your sweater.
I'm not really sure who makes it, but I will say like they just don't make it like this anymore.
Oldie but
They don't make it like they used to.
No.
Nope, they don't.
All right, lovies.
Okay.
All right, guys. Well, I love you both.
On that note.
On that note.
And
Love you guys.
love you guys. And thanks for joining. See you next time, guys.
Bye.
All right, we have to.
Wait, you guys, we really went for like 45 minutes.
Yeah. 45, maybe even an hour. Like if we have other stuff to say. And we're still recording right now, by the way.
Listening for an hour.
Okay, there's one of
Yeah, I do. I listen for the podcast, not just ours, but I'm saying other podcasts too.
I'm like hooked now. It's all I'm on.
Yeah.
And I never listened to a podcast in my life until Mel brought up we should do one.
Yeah.
Do you find them on Spotify?
I find them on Instagram.
Instagram.
And then I go to Spotify.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I use podcasts like the app.
Yeah.
on the phone,
You have podcast. Yeah. I just go to Spotify.
Yeah,
But that's what
but
the best ones are, just like the banter, the chatting, like having normal conversation.
I love Mel
We're,
Robbins. I love
we're
the ones I
good.
can learn too.
Yeah, we're wrapping.
I hope that we can teach at some point because I'm not listening.
Well,
to
someone
something
could
I'm not
listen to
learning
this and be like.